Um, you're all very welcome here to the council chamber today for the first ever full council meeting. Look forward to having a good, productive meeting. So hope you all behave yourselves. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good afternoon, members. To all members of Derry City and Strabane District Council, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the council to be held today, Wednesday, 28th of June, in the Guildhall at 2 o'clock. And starting with the roll call, Alderman Breslin.
Here, John.
Alderman Cook. Alderman Guy. Alderman Hussey.
Aye.
Alderman Carrigan.
Here, John, online.
Alderman McCready. Alderman McMorris.
Here, John.
Alderman Middleton.
Here.
Councillor Jason Barr. Councillor Lillian Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs.
John.
Councillor Boyle. Councillor Cusick.
John.
Councillor Deeney.
And Shaw.
Councillor Devine. Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell. Councillor Fleming. Councillor Gallagher.
And Sean.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart. Councillor Heaney.
And Shaw.
Councillor Hutton.
Apologies, John.
Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard.
And Shaw.
Councillor Logue.
And Shaw.
Councillor McDaid. Councillor McGinley. Councillor McGowan. Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy.
And Shaw.
Councillor Norris. Councillor O'Farrell.
And Shaw.
Thank you, Councillor O'Farrell. Councillor Riley.
Here, John.
Councillor Tierney. And Councillor Nealis.
Shaw.
Thank you, members.
Thank you, John. I'm now going to read the broadcasting announcement. I would like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the Guildhall or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on with speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the council privacy notice may be found on the council's website. Can I now ask, has any declarations of interest? No. I move on then to item number 5, and that's Chairperson's business. And I just have three items today. I want to wish Derry well. They play Cork in the All-Ireland quarter-finals this weekend. I also want to wish Derry City Football Club all the best in their European Conference League in the Faroe Islands on the 13th of July. And just to, I have asked James McLean to come to a reception for him getting the 100 cap for his country. Thank you. Now there was only...
Mayor. Sorry, Mayor, just on that, I'm sure you'd also like to wish the Throne team all the best in All Ireland quarter-final.
I certainly do, but I'm going to blame my husband for this one because I'm not a sports person. I says, what big sports things have happened? So I will talk to him about that, but I certainly wish Tyrone all the best too. Anyhow, I've only received one I received two notices for members to speak at Chairperson's business, and one has been withdrawn, but I'm now going to go over to Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me on at such late notice. Yesterday marked the 3rd anniversary of the discovery of Noah Donoghue's body in a storm drain in Belfast. And as this council has in the past supported motions of support for his mother Fiona and the Donoghue family in their struggle for truth, transparency and justice for Noah, I feel it's only right that we reiterate those sentiments at this time. Given the families and the public's dissatisfaction with the police investigation into Noah's death, I'm relieved to see that the renowned investigative journalist Donald McIntyre has assembled a first-class team of detectives and criminologists to undertake an independent investigation into the case. And I sincerely hope this development will give us some answers. Finally, I would like to thank all who supported the vigil in Strabane last night to mark this tragic anniversary, and all who played an active part in making it happen. I'm aware some had travelled long distances to be in attendance, and we're very grateful for that. I'd also like to thank Jerry Carroll, MLA, and Councillor Paul Gallagher for speaking at the event. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Barr for bringing this to speak on under Chair's business. I attended last night as well, along with other councillors and members of Strabane community, and I know that from previous conversations that I've had with the Donoghue family, they appreciate wholeheartedly the support and all support that comes, particularly from Strabane, where the Donoghues are from. Just to add to what Councillor Barr has said, of course, there are things that definitely need answered. There are questions yet to be asked and questions yet to be answered. And it will be our view that they should be answered very comprehensively, that they should be investigated very comprehensively, and that anybody who is standing in the way of truth and transparency and justice being done in relation to the death and disappearance of Noah Donoghue, those people should come forward immediately. And anybody with any information that should be reiterated again and again should come forward to those who are trying to get to the bottom of this. So there are things yet that stand to be answered. And I think the support from this council chamber, and particularly last night from the event that was held in Strabane, the message that came loud and clear from that is that people demand answers and people want truth and justice and transparency. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to join with you and wishing Derry GA all the best, Derry City Football Club. I think it's a marvellous achievement from James McLean to reach 100 caps for his country. Something which I know James and his family are extremely proud of, but I think we, as a city and district, should be extremely proud of as well. I also join with you in wishing Tyrone GA all the best, and I also wish your husband all the best as well after you get home, Madam Mayor. I do join with Councillor Barr and Councillor Boggs on behalf of the SDLP and express our ongoing and continued support to the family of Noah Donoghue. Every family, regardless of the circumstances, seeks answers after a tragic death, and the Donoghue family are no exception. The difference being, it appears as if they are being held from the truth and answers are being held from them. I think it's the job of each of us as public representatives in this council to support them, to do all we can to raise their case and to make sure that they get the answers. I wasn't at the event in Strabane last night, but I know party colleagues who were, and on behalf of the SDLP, our ongoing and continued support to the Donoghue family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and congratulations on chairing your first full council meeting. And yeah, I want to thank Councillor Barr for organising the vigil yesterday. I think it was very well attended. And people spoke very, very passionately about the campaign. And 3 years is a long time for the Donoghue family, knocking on the door, demanding justice. And I think as speakers last night said, that on the part of the authorities, both the PSNI and the guards, there doesn't seem to be enough transparency. And I think that this is something that our council is on record calling for, that there needs to be far more transparency. And I think that this is, Fiona Donoghue suffered a great loss in their family, and then to have this
deepened and furthered by a lack of support from those who should be doing everything they can to provide the truth. Transparency is very, very frustrating. So I think we as a council should continue to back that campaign and do what we can to demand authorities. I think the only way you could describe it is a continued effort to confuse, to block, and to slow down the effort to get the full truth of what's happened in Noah. Thank you, Mayor.
No one else, I'll just move on now to item 6, and that's the confirmation of the open minutes of the meeting of Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Wednesday, the 29th of March 2023. I'll take the pages on block, page 9 to 20. Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, C140/23. It's a typo. It's Conal McBurdy, not Conan. That can be changed. Thank you.
20 to 35. 35 to 46. Okay, can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Okay. Second, Emma. Any matters arising, except for one that was mentioned there? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 issues. Page 22, the angling fares, the proposal is the matter was deferred and brought to a working group for discussion. Is there any indication when that working group will be established?
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Hussey, we're going to use the Festival and Events Working Group, which is already established, so we'll call that. And we have a number of issues regarding events that we'd like to discuss with members, and that will be one of them.
Thank you, Mayor. Subsequent to that, then, page 35, item 168, car park resurfacing. I know there have been delays in that. Can we have an indication as to when? Is there any indication from the contractor as to when they will start the work? And is there a schedule of the dates for that work? And will the public obviously will need to be informed that the car parks are closed, etc., and given good warning on that?
I don't have an indication yet. The tenders are complete, so the assessment panel will meet and assess the tenders. That's when I'll get the schedule of when the works are going to be completed, and we will obviously inform all the interested parties when that work's happening, particularly the businesses and so on that will be affected by the works.
Thank you, Mayor. And page 41, item 179, allowances. Has there been any response from DFC on that particular issue yet?
Not at this stage, through you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it is an issue that we need to tackle early and go forward with that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other, sorry, Councillor Donnelly and then Councillor Harkin.
Chair. Chair, page 31, just immediately before item C163/23. It's regarding the meeting that council officers and councillors and aldermen had with the apprentice boys. And I'd asked, for an update on that. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think that we've had an update. What happened coming out of that meeting, or can anybody shed any light on that, please?
Sorry, Mayor, just through you. I think Stephen attended that meeting on my behalf, but it's been quite a while ago now. There hasn't been a recent meeting. This is a very substantial time ago, isn't it? Yeah. you want to just update?
And just, there hasn't been any further meetings or any further updates since that day, so
Have we received an update from the meeting to council? You know, the council, that meeting was requested through council. We had the meeting, and to the best of my knowledge, we haven't had an update for all our councillors or all men or regarding it. Is that going to happen? Because at the last, in that item, I had asked, requested for an update from it.
yeah, we can certainly do that. We can bring in an update so all councillors have sight of what was discussed that day. That's, yeah.
Declared interest as a member of the Apprentice Boys. Mayor.
Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I refer everyone to C148/23? And look, it's very, very disappointing that once again, pay parity is going to be broken for workers here in the north with healthcare workers here in the north with NHS workers in Britain. And the trade unions in the field have already made clear their anger, frustration at this. We had agreed the right to the Secretary of State expressing our anger at the pay issues that health and social care workers have experienced, and clearly nothing has been done about that. And what it now means is that we are likely to face more industrial action by healthcare workers. I think we are very clear. I'm not sure if we got a response from the Secretary of State regarding the letter we had agreed to write, but clearly there is still complete and utter inaction when it comes to doing anything about the issues at hand. So on behalf of ourselves, People Before Profit, will be extending our solidarity to the health and social care workers. And if they do go on strike in September, we will be supporting them, even though it's very disappointing that they have to do that again. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I just want to declare an interest because I am a health and social care worker.
Mayor, and on the same basis, I would like to declare an interest as somebody who works for the Western Trust. But on behalf of Sinn Féin, we fully concur with the remarks from Councillor Harkin. It's disgraceful that there's people providing vital services in an under-resourced system within our city and district right across the north that are being paid differently to people carrying out the same vital services in England, Scotland and Wales. And this is a direct result of a failure of government, the fact that we don't have an assembly in place to stand up for our public services as a whole. And we've seen time and time again how a British Secretary of State cares little for those that are providing those vital roles within our system. So we do need to continue to put pressure on the British Secretary of State and those that are placing a stranglehold on our public sector right across. But the solution to all of this is local accountable ministers. We need to get an assembly back up and running, and it's encouraging that there is soundings from the DUP that they are starting to listen to the people, and hopefully they will get back around the table and work with the rest of us to resolve the many issues that are facing our public sector at this moment in time. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And I suppose, first of all, to declare an interest as my wife is a nurse, first and foremost. But on behalf of the SDLP, again, we agree with Councillor Harkin and Councillor Jackson. We did so when this proposal came through Council at the beginning, and that position hasn't changed. It's encouraging to see that one particular party's position may be changing and may bring, hopefully, a resolve to this particular issue. At that particular time and at every stage, I have said that a nurse or a healthcare worker in Derry is as valuable to their patients as a nurse or a healthcare worker in Manchester or Glasgow or Cardiff. and they should be, in our view, paid the same for the same job. I think the Secretary of State has the power to make this decision, but I also think that he's not making this decision because it also gives him power. And in my view, it gives him power for the public, rightly so, to be demanding that an executive is set up and this, along with other issues that are rumbling on, are addressed by local accountable ministers. If we want this done, there's two ways to do it. Number one, the Secretary of State does it, which I don't think is likely. Number two, we set up, an executive is formed, a health minister is appointed, and a budget is set to allow this to happen. That's two easy ways to make this happen. And it is now affecting people right across the north in healthcare work, from healthcare workers to teachers to housing executive workers to every possible sector. And the only way, in my view, to have it fixed is for local accountable ministers to be in place to take these decisions. We support Councillor Harkin's remarks, and we continue to support healthcare workers at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the Ulster Unions grouping, we fully endorse the remarks with regard to, was it in fact discrimination against healthcare workers in Northern Ireland? Very, very simply. Members will remember that I had that proposal, which was seconded by Councillor Harkin in front of Council, and Council agreed at that time that we condemned this discrimination. We want to see it properly endorsed, or properly sorted out. I'm mindful of the previous time when Stormont was down, and the first job of the incoming health minister was to look at pay parity. And it seems that an incoming health minister will be in exactly the same position in a new mandate when and if Stormont gets up and going again. Thank you.
Move on now to item number 8, and it's...
Thank you, Mayor. Just one other issue there. It's C151/23. And we spoke about the road service workers here going on strike and the danger that posed to our roads network. And obviously, there's more cuts coming from the Department for Infrastructure, which means there's further worries about our roads. And unfortunately, despite the letter that has been written from the Department to Council, saying that they're doing all they can to resolve these issues with road service workers and do something about the draconian bonus system and the low pay that people face, the workers have decided that they're going to be going out and strike again on July 3rd. And obviously, I think as a council, we should stand in full solidarity with striking road service workers who deserve fair pay. And they see platforms like the council now as the only way to kind of get out their appeals and arguments and ask for support, since there is no assembly to do that. But I think that it's unfair that workers are going to be forced to strike again. But given the discussions we've been having about the need to upkeep and fix our roads, I mean, this is a massive failing from the department. They seem to have not taken heed of the demands and the support that we've given road service workers. And if there's going to be now another 2 weeks of strike action this month, that's worrying for our roads network. So I think we have to send that strong message again to the department that they need to resolve this. They don't need the assembly up and running to fix and do something about the bonus system. That can be resolved very easily. Permanent secretaries are making all sorts of decisions. This is something that can be done, and they should be doing it in the interest of protecting our roads network and doing right by the workers. Thank you, Mayor.
We'll move on now to item number 8, and that is the confirmation of the open minutes of the reconvened meeting of Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Thursday, the 30th of March, 2023. And it's pages 47 to 74. I have a proposer and seconder, please. Sandra, Emma. Any matters arising? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. It's C199. There's a proposal from the former Councillor Edwards with regard to report on Council spending on services and capital projects. That this Council agrees to produce an initial report detailing all spend on services and capital projects since the reform of local government. Council agreed that. When will that initial report be available to members? Thank you.
Mayor, I can't give a timetable on the initial report. We are meeting to discuss the implementation of that notice of motion. It's quite an extensive one, as you can see. And when we have assessed the timeframes with regard to that, we'll bring a report in setting out how we would plan to deliver on that notice of motion.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think you will know from my previous contributions in council that it's one that I feel needs to be brought forward. And I would imagine that fellow councillors in the rural areas would also be of a similar frame of mind. Thank you.
Move on now to item number 9, and that's a confirmation of the open minutes of the AGM of Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Monday, the 5th of June, 2023. And it's pages 75 to 92. Right, we move on then to item number 10, the confirmation of the open minutes of the special meeting of Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Tuesday, the 20th of June, 2023. Pages 93 to 106. Can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Caitlin? Sean? Sean Money, that was, yeah. Matters arising. Alderman McCready.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Matter arising pertains to the appointment of the Reserve Forces and Cadet Association. I believe there may be a discrepancy of the length of term, 1 year to 4 year term, which is different from previous terms. I'm asking officers to go and investigate with that organisation so we can come to a conclusion on whether it's a 1 year term or a 4 year term. Thank you.
Okay.
Looking at that one. Clarity on
Any other matters arising? Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, we're happy to check that through you, Mayor. But subsequent, just to let members know, to the special meeting, the association did write to us and actually changed the format of their nomination, in which case they were requesting a nominee for 4 years and also a reserve. So we haven't gone back to them at this stage on that because it's different in our current practice. But we'll certainly, as I say, bring a report into GSP. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just like to say in that, we weren't aware that there was a request on for like a 4 year term on that. And had we have been aware of that information, then we probably would have had a difference in picks through the hunt system. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration if there's going to be a change on what has already been proposed, as in 1 year terms. So just I want to highlight our concern about that. You know.
Through you, Mayor, obviously there has been additional information received, so that's why we need to bring a report in with the implications and how it would work from here on. Plus, I think the request for a deputy as well, which has come in.
Okay, no other matters arising. We'll move on now to item number 11, and that's the adoption of the open minutes of the following committees. The special meeting of the Planning Committee held on Monday, the 27th of March, 2023, pages 107 to 114. Can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Councillor Sean Money and somebody. Seconder, Christopher Jackson. Any matters arising? No. The reconvened special meeting of the Planning Committee held on Tuesday, the 28th of March 2023, pages 115 to 126. Proposer and seconder, please. Sean, Minnie. So, Caitlin. The matters arising? No matters arising. The monthly governance and strategic planning committee held on Tuesday, the 6th of June, 2023. Proposer and seconder, please. Right, Emma and Christopher. Matters arising? Councillor Heaney.
Thanks, Mayor. It's GSP 81/23 on the rate support grant. This is for us an equality issue. This will have real-time detrimental impacts on ratepayers in this city. At that meeting, I had proposed that we join the judicial review that Mid Ulster has taken. I agreed on the advice of the Chief Executive that we should explore that and leave it until full council to decide if that was a viable option. So I'm now taking the opportunity to check that we will now join the legal action been taken by Mid Ulster, and I'd like to get confirmation of that from the city solicitor.
Yep. Mayor, through you. So we have now had sight of all of the papers that have been lodged in relation to that judicial review to date. And officers have done a preliminary review of those papers. And at this stage, the view would be that there would be merit, as I think was suggested at the GNSP meeting, that the council would seek to intervene in the proceedings, not as an applicant, but as an interested party, and seek to do so by submitting affidavit evidence and by potentially making oral submissions at the hearing, which I understand is currently listed in October. Members, we would be seeking to now have authority to go forward and to brief council in that respect with a view to proceeding in that manner. And we'll obviously update members further in September. At that stage, should in terms of how that has been progressed, or if there are any different views in relation to the matter as well. The second thing arising out of that, members, obviously, is that the papers that have been lodged in the Mid Ulster judicial review are in respect of the 22-23 rate support grant allocation, not in respect of the 23-24 decision, which was notified in June. So we'd also be taking some advice as to whether or not the current proceedings would also cover that grant, or whether or not we would need to look at separate proceedings in relation to that. There being a 3-month time limit to issue proceedings if needed in respect to that. So if members are content, we'll also look at that. And the final point in relation to that, members, is that it's my understanding that this matter will also be considered by Fermanagh Omagh District Council at their council meeting next week, and that there is an initial indication from that council that they would be prepared to take this forward with Derry City and Strabane District Council on a joint basis, which would obviously have financial savings for this council. As an intervener, our costs are not recoverable regardless of the outcome in relation to the matter. So if members are content, subject to whatever views may be expressed by FODC at their meeting next week, if members of this council are content, we would be seeking to proceed on that basis.
Just to come back on that, thanks, Philip. It's very useful. Well, just you mentioned seeking a mandate from members. So if that means a proposal that we do proceed, then I'm happy to make it.
Councillor Gallagher first, and then Alderman McCready. And then Councillor Barr.
Mayor, just as probably more a legal position, as such, seeking clarification on that first. And what I'm seeking clarification on is, I remember go back through council, and we had previously brought forward a proposal for a judicial review, and there was a thing around the cost of that, and that we had went to we took a decision that we would progress with that, and then we went to Fermanagh and Omagh, looking to see if they would come on board with us on that, and they refused. And they refused on the grounds that this council had already taken a decision and that they wouldn't put any further onus on their ratepayers. So the clarification I'm seeking is, if Mid-Ulster has already taken this and they're taking it forward and have decided on that, and their ratepayers are going to be paying for it, should we be putting the cost of taking it onto our ratepayers when it's already going to happen? And if we are going to put a cost onto our ratepayers to join, what extra value is it that we're going to have, that our ratepayers are paying, that we wouldn't get out of the outcome of Mid-Ulster anyway? So I think that before we would just dive into saying, yes, we're diving in, it's going to cost us £100,000 to our ratepayers, when Mid-Ulster, who may be slightly better off than us, that we would put an onus on our ratepayers first. So before we would take a decision, I think that we would need to go to our ratepayers. Are we just sending good money after bad?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. And yes, Councillor Gallagher's correct there in that he's referring to the judicial review that's ongoing in relation to the mineral prospecting licences. Members that were previously on the council will recall that this situation is more in line with the position that was adopted by this council in relation to the ports checks and the decision of Minister Poots in relation to the stopping of those checks when, in that case, the judicial review had been brought by Belfast City Council and this council intervened. And the point that Councillor Gallagher makes is quite correct. This council will only be permitted to intervene and enter as an intervener if it can add value to the claim. So it's not cast in stone that we will be allowed to. We will have to seek permission of the court, and we will have to at that time indicate to the court what value we believe we can add to the claim as an intervener in order for that permission to be granted. So the first step that would be mandated by Councillor Heaney's proposal here today would be to engage in those discussions with Council to make sure that it is believed at that stage that there is value that this council and that Fermanagh Omagh District Council can add as a result perhaps of the different demographics that exist within the council, the different pressures the rate support grant changes might make to this council that would not, for example, apply necessarily in Mid-Ulster. So it's on that basis it would go forward.
Mayor, just on that, could we see the proposal then? Could we see it up?
Sorry, Mayor, just to clarify, it's not a proposal, it's a recommendation by an officer to take forward the proposal that was previously endorsed. So do you want Philip to restate his suggested course of action?
No, there's not a proposal on the floor then.
Well, my understanding is that Philip had set out a potential course of action, and then members are proposing to endorse that course of action. That's my understanding. So would you like Philip to restate the intended course of action?
Okay. Alderman McCready.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and thanks for clarity. There's two parts to this. First part is outlined with it's our intention as council to engage on options. And I think it's a really good point from Member Gallagher about, well, what's the cost implications in this and what's the likelihood, probability of succeeding, and then the liabilities thereafter what this council could incur, because this is an expensive piece of work. I do believe it is worth it on the principle of the rate support grant thereafter, but if we're going through the recommendation now, and then once we get a report back in detail of those options, so we can look at a financial decision and determination whether to actually take legal action, whether it's in tandem with the neighbouring council or independently, then we'd be prepared to make a decision on the financial implications. But right now, we share the intent. Let's make the groundworks now in order to make that decision. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. We agree with Councillor Heaney's proposal. We agreed with it in governance and strategic planning, and that has not changed here today. I'm not sure if it needs a seconder. If it does, I'm happy to do that on behalf of the SDLP. The decision to cut the rate support grant for the poorest councils across the north is a disgrace. And if we do not stand up and challenge this, it's an absolute disservice to the people right across this city and district. The rate support grant in 2008 was over £20 million. This year, it's 4 million. We've got, it's 3 million. We've gone from receiving over £4 million in 2008 to less than £1 million this year. And that means the people out there are forced to pay the difference, and that is not right during a cost of living crisis, or it's not right at any stage at all. So we need to challenge this. We need to explore the opportunities within this GAR, and we need to state unequivocally what civil servants in Stormont are doing is wrong. There is a need for the rate support grant. There is a need for it to be maintained. There's a need for it to be restored to its previous levels and for inflationary uplifts to be applied. And we have to stand up and demand that. So we support the proposal. Thank you.
No other. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I just wanted to clarify that I am not against us challenging this decision. Not one bit am I against this, and I think we should be. But just the way that came across there by the previous speaker, like, as if that I was an oppositionist, I'm not. The point that I'm making just is that we need to see is what is the added value of us putting more money into a pot. That's the only thing that I'm saying. Of course, the decision was wrong to cut rates. Of course it was. And I've been shouting in this chamber since I got on here around the cuts to the rate support grant. 100%. Thank you, Mayor, for letting me that.
Mayor, it's on the same type of issue, but not this issue of I think people are finished with that, or it's regards court case and money and repairs and all that. Give me a reference.
Mayor.
We're finished in this issue. Does anybody else want to speak in this issue?
Mayor, Alderman Kerrigan, I do have my name in the chat box. Just thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Keith.
Thank you, Mayor. No, just in regards to, would agree with it as previous speakers have stated there. In regards to, it is exceptionally disappointing that the rate support grant has been cut again, and as Councillor Farrell has given the figures in regards to this, is a cut since 2008 to date. But just would be clarification on the potential costings and the potential how much more money are we likely to have to pump into this. And again, there's no guarantee on being successful. It's just getting a wee bit more clarity from Philip on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Right, if there are no more speakers in this now, I'm just going to bring Philip in to give full clarity on what's happening, and then we'll go on to Councillor Gallagher or Councillor.
Yeah, so thank you, members. So just to be clear, then the proposal, what officers would be recommending we do at this stage is that we would meet with council with a view to making an application to the court for permission to intervene in the proceedings by submission of affidavit evidence and by means of oral submissions. If that permission is granted, then we would go forward on that basis and lodge affidavits and make oral submissions at the hearing. To be clear, members, that the recommendation is not that we seek to join in these proceedings as a joint applicant to the proceedings, but rather that we're seeking leave to intervene. The significant implications in relation to that are in respect of costs, in that in particular it means that the council cannot be held liable for anybody else's costs, and regardless of the outcome of the proceedings. Equally, it cannot recover its own costs regardless of the outcome of the proceedings. So that would be similar, as I say, to the position as went forward with the Brexit protocol checks. Estimating costs is difficult because it depends on the amount of time and work involved. But assuming we're taking this forward with Fermanagh Oma District Council, I would be imagining a budget in the region of £20,000 or so in respect of the matter.
So members, is everybody okay with the direction of travel? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to bring on Councillor Donnelly now.
Good Chair. Chair, my query is regarding another court case and concerns this council, and it's the one that we've read about in the media regarding I think it was the Waterside count. Is there, there's a lot of speculation and people are having to, guess at what's happening. Is there any way that we could get a report or clarification of what exactly is going on there, what's happening, and is there any potential cost to council economically or via or reputation wise? And is there any conflicts of interest there because it involves two different parties? It's just that there seems to be no information. Can anybody put a steer on that? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, the only information we have at this moment in time is that an election petition has been lodged, and that election petition is currently being considered by the courts. We are awaiting further information with regard to next steps at this stage.
Just clarity that the council's not a party to those proceedings.
Yes. And the clarity, sorry, thank you, Philip. The clarity is the council is not a party to those proceedings at this minute in time. So the election petition has been lodged with the electoral office, and that is currently being considered by the court.
Members, we have to just go back there to item B. I believe the seconder of the planning committee that was held on the 28th of March, I believe it may have been yourself, Caitlin. We need somebody that was actually on the planning committee at that date.
Mayor,
okay, thank you. The monthly planning committee held on Wednesday, the 7th of June, 2023, pages 139 to 147. Proposer and seconder, please.
I propose it.
Okay. Matters arising. Oh, we have a seconder, yeah? Yeah. Matters arising? No. The reconvened planning committee held on Thursday, the 8th of June, 2023, pages 149 to 154. Proposer and seconder, please.
I propose it.
And Councillor Leonard, second. Okay. Matters arising? No matters arising. Move on to the monthly Business and Culture Committee held on Monday, the 12th of June, 2023, pages 155 to 164. Proposer and seconder, please. Okay. Members, can you please say your name if you're proposing? It makes it easier for the committee clerk to take record of that, please.
Myself to propose, Madam Mayor.
I'll second, Chelsea. Okay. Matters arising? Alderman McCready.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. It's under BC 81/23 pertaining to the Invest in I discussion and recommendation that we're providing here to Council. Just to give it a rationale and background for members, that we've made the recommendation to have the Invest in I as a standalone item on the agenda within business and culture so that we at this level can keep abreast of current failures or current opportunities that may arise. And that is a separate function to a quarterly update that we would bring in an Invest NI representative locally here to the actual committee for a one-to-one session. And, precedent's been set before on this with regards to environment regeneration. We brought in the Maboy dump update because of its significance and how big of an issue it is. Similarly, in business and culture and economic development, I think it's very prudent for us as councillors, not just in the committee, but overall to take a keen interest on the detail of Invest NI and how they operate within our city, district and the Northwest region. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. And look, I don't have a problem with the proposal in the sense that I think Invest NI should be held to account. I think that we as a council have been very, very frustrated with the way that Invest NI has operated for many, many years. I just want to get on record that I don't think that Invest NI is going to be the organisation that actually helps to revitalise the economic fortunes of Derry and Strabane district and the entire Northwest. The independent investigation found that it's a corrupt, rudderless organisation that is only worked to reinforce prejudices against Derry and this entire Northwest region. And that every time we've invited representatives from Invest NI to come here, they have, refused. So I think that this is obviously they need to be held to account. But look, I think we need a new organisation that would have a completely different approach to investment for Derry and really for across the entire north. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting Mayor, I was at this meeting as well. I'm happy to see the proposal and the recommendations. But what I would see is if we want to progress this and Invest NI, that this council, and we have officers behind the scenes, what we need to do is collectively build a consensus of what we would like to see, what we need to see from Invest NI. What we need to do is draw up a baseline and say over the next term, this council, that's where we're going to see invested in the Northwest by Invest NI. If we don't have a baseline, if we don't have checks and balances, all we're going to do is have a monthly meeting and it's going to bash Invest NI without any substance. We really want to hold their feet to the fire, so to speak. Then we need to have a baseline and we need to see what's not getting delivered, what's not getting invested in, and what's not coming into this district. And then we'll be able to challenge them and say, this is not rhetoric. This is hard and fast facts of disinvestment. And that's what we're seeing. And that's what we've seen over the last number of years. So as part of this recommendation, I think that we need to be seeing a report, a working group coming out of this committee that says, let's draw up a baseline and checks and balances and get it endorsed by this full chamber. And that's the working document that we move forward on. And that's what we move forward on the item on the agenda on a monthly basis. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. When this was discussed at Business and Culture, everybody in the chamber was in complete agreement. Nobody thinks that Invest NI is bringing loads of investment into this city. They're not bringing loads of jobs to this city. They're not bringing loads of investors doing investment visits to this city. They're bringing very, very little to this city. So I think we're all saying the same thing. In terms of Councillor McCready's proposal, they have it as a standing item on the B&C agenda. Nobody disagreed with that at all. I think we're all in agreement. Councillor Hart made the proposal that Invest NI need to turn up here on a quarterly basis. I agree with that. The SDLP agree with that. The difficulty is we can't get them here on an annual basis. So how are we going to get them here on a quarterly basis? The issue with Invest NI, and Councillor Gallagher is right, he has said that there needs to be a baseline. There needs to be targets for Invest NI. I don't know how many times I've said this in this chamber, dating back to February 2020. I've said this to Invest NI in this chamber. There needs to be targets for investment. There needs to be targets for FDI visits. There needs to be targets for job creation. At the minute, Invest NI look at the North as one entity. They don't look at the regions with the highest economic inactivity. They don't look at the regions with the highest unemployment. There are no targets for job creation in this city and district. So in 2021-22, there were 67 jobs created with the assistance of Invest NI in this city and district. Belfast City Council got 1,657. If we were to ask an executive Invest NI, did they meet their targets for job creation in Derry and Strabane? They would say, we don't have any. How can you not meet a target that doesn't exist? So what we need is Invest NI to come here on a quarterly basis, but we need a minister in Stormont that sets a policy direction for Invest NI. There needs to be targets, strict targets for the areas with the highest unemployment, the highest economic inactivity. And without that, there's nothing is going to change. So I understand Invest NI are coming here in November, and I'll put those questions to them again and again and again. But we need a government, we need an economy minister, and without that, it's not going to change.
Mayor, and I suppose on behalf of Sinn Féin, I would say that we would agree with a lot of what's said before. I think Councillor Farrell's final remarks around that we need a government and we need an economy minister is partially correct. We need a government. We need a different economy minister. And that goes down to the fact that sort of drills down to the core problem in relation to Invest NI. They have systematically ignored west of the Ban. Not only the city and district, but the entire west of the Ban. And there are no sub-regional targets, and that is a must. There needs to be a focused plan. They invest in areas where in need of investment. And from our view, and it's been rehearsed many times within this chamber and at committees, that there's Invest NI have fallen short in terms of what we need them to do to promote this city, district and wider Northwest region. And we've highlighted the fact that there's political interference in terms of policy direction from Invest NI. So there does need to be a change of focus from Invest NI, and until we've got an executive up in place, we should be doing whatever we can, because councils are we're only showing town at the minute, so we need to be doing whatever we can. And one of the things that one of those mechanisms is to use a standing item on the Business and Culture Committee. It practically is a standing item on Business and Culture. Anyway, there's not a meeting of Business and Culture, and there's not a meeting of this full council where Invest NI isn't discussed and criticised. But I think it's only right that we do ask for reports to be presented to this committee. So it does, and I appreciate the council officers do engage with Invest NI in a regular basis, but we've absolutely fully support the initiative and proposal to have a standing item. And we fully endorse the call from the chair. They have a deputation on a quarterly basis. But if we're going to see the real change, it will be with a complete change of political direction from that department. And who knows, when we come to a deputation coming to this chamber in November, there may be a new economy minister that is serious about addressing the regional imbalance in this part of the island. So, but in terms of everything that's said, we partially agree with the sentiment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, for that speaking. Mayor, could I make that a formal proposal that we get a report coming in, can come into business culture, whatever, that officers would look at setting some baseline and some targets that then councillors could look at and peruse and see where we go, so that we would actually be able then to monitor the way forward, rather than what we continue to do is go backwards. You know, we're saying this didn't happen, that didn't happen, so we should be looking to see going forward. Because if we have a meeting in here in November with Invest NI, what we're going to be doing is just criticising them and having no firm targets and saying.
Councillor Gallagher, I understand what you're asking there, but I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to come in just for a minute.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. And just, I'm wondering if this might be a helpful suggestion to members. If members are minded, it sounds like you are, to propose or take forward this recommendation today. There are a number of meetings taking place with Invest. There's a whole lot of comments with regard to Invest. There's the outworkings of how we would take forward this notice of motion, how we would schedule it, what its agenda would be, that type of thing. And the suggestion you've made, Councillor Gallagher, about the baseline position of council. A suggestion, members, might be that we would set up a meeting with the members of the Business and Culture Committee to discuss these issues, and then subsequently bring back a paper with regard to the way forward, if you thought that might be helpful.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. You know, we need to get into the detail of it and make sure that the paper is going to do all that members required in order to inform the discussion. So, we okay with that then? Yeah. Right. Alderman Hussey and then Alderman McCready. No? No.
I also have a different item, but just on this particular item, I think another thing that needs to be within that mix of dealing with Invest NI is that they recognise the location that we are in and that we are a city region, because they do not include the statistics of available workforce elsewhere beyond the boundary.
I think that can all be discussed at the meeting, Alderman. So, Alderman McCready, did you want to come in?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. It's a matter arising on BC 83/23 under Investment Service Update. I understand there's going to be more updates throughout the year, so I'm going to keep it very specific to the Freeport. So, does council officers or us as a corporate entity need confirmation or definitive proposal from members on a position of a Freeport, however that takes form? Or are council officers under the understanding that you can continue to engage on Freeport development with the stakeholders and partners? But do you need a decision from us if that ever does become a reality? Or will you have to bring a paper back to ask us for approval on a Freeport? And I say that because it is a local authority is integral to the delivery of a Freeport. Thanks.
Or bring in Stephen, Councillor. No.
Mayor, just a very quick declaration of interest as a commissioner in Floydport.
Commissioner, right.
I declare the same interest as a member of Boydport, Mayor.
Okay, Stephen.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, this council has endorsed, we have a joint report which was commissioned between ourselves, Belfast City Council, Belfast Harbour and Foyleport. That sits as our agreed position at this stage, and members have seen all that. At the minute, there is no formal competition, so there's nothing for us to endorse, if that makes sense. So what I felt was we had enough approval as officers to keep working on those, to keep talking. We meet on a regular basis as stakeholders. We talk across ourselves, but if and when a competition opens, depending on what the rules of that competition were, whether the submission we have fits that competition or whatever, then I would definitely have to come back to members to seek endorsement at that point. But at this stage, I don't think there's anything for members to endorse.
Item BC 82 on page 157, and is contained within the second paragraph, if I may, Mayor. And it was with regard to a parochial issue, but there is a wider issue within this, is the issue of pillars and railings along the front of Eden Park opposite Derrick Valley Leisure Centre in Castlederrick, and ownership. And it's this situation when something falls between two stools. I've gone back on the YouTube of that meeting when I was talking about it. The director suggested that our legal department would be able to do a land search and find out who it owned to, or who it belonged to. I've already made queries of DFA Roads and Northern Ireland Housing Executive. They're both denying responsibility for this particular feature. My understanding from engaging with legal support is that council can only identify property that's ours, that is council property. So we have this situation, and it'll apply in other places throughout the council district area, where ownership cannot be identified, yet there is an issue to be addressed. And I'm just wondering, how do we take forward an issue when this sort of scenario is in situ?
Through you, Mayor, unfortunately, there aren't simple answers to that. As members, many members will know, land ownership falls into two categories: registered and unregistered. Registered land's easy to identify ownership of, because one simply checks on the land registry and the information is provided to you. Registry of Deeds unregistered land's much harder to ascertain the ownership of, and that frequently comes up in relation to, for example, the Muse lanes here in the city, where issues arise. So we do the best we can, but sometimes, unfortunately, the problem genuinely is intractable.
Thanks for that, Philip. Final comment, Mayor. We're obviously talking about an old, what would have been termed a council housing estate within the old Castlederrick Rural District Council, which was transferred to the Housing Executive. But, you know, it's just the records that would exist going back, and this is actually Strabane District Council as such, and I just wonder, are those records, do we still hold those records? We don't. Right, thank you.
It's on a different issue. Is there anybody else in this one? We finished with it? Okay, Mayor, can I come on the previous issue, BC 83/23? And it's in relation to the investment service update, and there was a recommendation and a decision that coming out of that committee, that we would not be sending a delegation to the Golden Bridges event on the basis of value for money for repairs, and it's and a lot of the discussion had focused on the role of Invest NI and the responsibility largely lying with Invest NI to drive economic investment in the Northwest. We have heard earlier in this meeting around the failures of InvestNI, and particularly Alderman Hussey's remarks in relation to the lack of willingness to sell the Northwest as a region as one entire unit. And for us as a council, that's something that's very important to us as we move forward. For us to reach our full potential, we need to be viewing and marketing our city and district and region as one entity. So I'm proposing that in relation to the recommendations from this report, that we defer this decision until January's or July's full council meeting, and hopefully allow for more information to be provided to a future meeting of Business and Culture, or the July's meeting of Business and Culture, where we can find out more around what other options are available to ensure that the Northwest is represented in its entirety at this event. So I'm proposing that we defer that decision to full council to allow further discussion at Business and Culture.
Do we have a seconder for that proposal? We have a number. Okay. You got that? Yeah. Sorry, Alderman McCready and then Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. This is a specific recommendation which is now different at this point, and to defer it, I don't see an issue with it. The representation of the Northwest for economic development, but let me remind members, there are so many organizations out there which are government financed and backed, such as the Federation of Small Businesses. You've got CBI, NI, the chambers, NI chamber, and all the breakdown of council chambers. You've InvestNI, there's manufacturing NI, you've got ADS Group. So there is going to be representation in the states. Our contention here in the Ulster Unions Party was the financial contribution of making it happen for a council representation there. It's been mentioned in here before and in the minutes. There's been various international delegations. Joe Kennedy III. You know, if we're wanted over, if we're going to be invited over, then let somebody else pay for it. You know, I'm not in the business of signing off £10,000 just so we as a council could be represented, because our economic entities for the Northwest are being represented. I just want to be clear on the differential between us as council and those out there who are pushing the economy. Thanks.
I think that may be able to be explored within the paper proposed to be brought back. Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. When this item was initially discussed at Business and Culture, I proposed it. And Sinn Féin had a caveat that this council didn't send anybody to the Golden Bridges conference. I welcome the U-turn, or the deferral of this decision. When the proposal that we didn't send anybody to this conference was made, I asked what the impact would be on our market activation in Philadelphia and Boston. Nobody could give me an answer at all. It was just fell on deaf ears. So we welcome this change of approach from Sinn Féin, and we will engage further at Business and Culture.
Oh. Councillor Gallagher.
Indeed, maybe to avoid the word U-turn, it's a deferred. But look, and I was at this meeting, and when Councillor McGowan was speaking on the subject, he spoke very well, and he came from a business background, and he outlined why would this council invest £10,000 of ratepayers' money when on previous occasions it's been well proven we've got nothing out of it. And if this item was to get deferred, I think I would need to come with a presentation of what are we going to get out of it, and how do we guarantee we're going to get something out of it, because past experience has told us we've got nothing out of it. Thank you.
Stephen, do you want to come in on that at all, or you don't want to come in? You're happy enough, right? Okay. There's no other matters arising. Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor, BC 86, the Museum of Visitor Service booking office update. There was a discussion at committee around a software package that would be put in place to allow for bookings in this building and the neighbouring Harbour House. And there was a sum of money that was suggested that members approved for a license for this software over 3 years. Just on the same vein around best use of council money, there was discussion around other options that are available to council as it is. They book rooms, they ensure that there isn't any double booking, and they ensure that a booking system can operate. The figure that was suggested at a committee is excessive. We don't feel that we've got enough evidence for us to be confident that it's the best use of ratepayers' money. And what I'm suggesting is that we don't. I'm proposing that we don't approve the new software program for the museum visiting service, and we explore the in-house software, the software packages that we have in place within our council at the minute. They ensure that the booking system can remain, and if there does be an issue, it can be reviewed on a regular basis. But at this moment in time, we haven't got the information that's in front of us that could justify a £10,000 spend for a software package. So proposing that we don't approve the financial budget for this software program. Thank you, Mayor.
Right, Alderman McCready.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I understand where the member's coming from. The recommendation which has been recommended by the committee, I'm still in favour of, because what was outlined to me by council officer is about the ergonomics and how optimal the systems are. At the minute, the systems are outdated. The option for an internal system, for example, Excel spreadsheet and people, is not conducive to the future of the city of room bookings. You know, anything up there needs to be simple, easy access, and user friendly. And we've got so many good rooms available which aren't being booked out because of the issue of trying to get them booked. So I don't necessarily agree. I don't think I'm going to vote in favour of the member's recommendation. I'm going to stick with the original one, because I think I have enough evidence based on what was presented to go ahead as the recommendation stands. So that's where the Welsh Unionist Party stands in this. Mayor, thanks.
Okay, any other views? Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't think we have ever in the history of this council in the last 4 years have had much discussion about B and C in the minutes. It's normally just approved, move on to the next one. So this is a turn up for the books. We had this discussion at B and C, and I had asked Aileen McCarter whether this £10,000 was recurrent, or if it was a one-off with then, you know, the potential of a licence fee. And I had asked Aileen how was the figure arrived at. If there wants to be a further discussion about, you know, is this best value for money, we're up for that, not an issue at all. But maybe the director could give us some feedback on this. I know the 10,000 was looking, I don't think there was any sort of tender at that stage. You know, it was just 10 grand. Sounds like a figure that would be appropriate. But I remember Aideen saying that this system has needed updated for quite a while. The system that they're using is outdated, it's defunct, and that the new system would align perfectly with the council's new website. It'd be a more professional system, a more efficient system, a more streamlined system. If there's a way to do it cheaper, let's investigate it. But we need to get a handle on, is it 10 grand every 3 years, or is it 10 grand with a very small annual recurrent fee? If we want a further discussion, I'm up for it, but I don't know what sort of clarity could be brought to this committee here today.
Right. Is there any other views before Stephen to clarify a few issues here? Councillor Jackson.
No, thanks, Mayor. And just for clarity, because it was discussed at length at Business and Culture, and there was concern raised by different members around how our businesses operate in terms of a booking system. We vacated the rooms in Harbour House to help generate, or with a view to generate an income. They have a space that could be rented out to generate an income for council. They support ratepayers. Now, that decision was supported unanimously by members of this council. And straight on the back of that, let's spend £10,000 to help manage those bookings. When there was questions asked around, do we have projected bookings? Do we have projected income? And at this minute in time, because that decision was only taken on the 1st of April, we don't have a projected income for the bookings of those rooms. So before we go to cost, they incur a cost of £10,000. And I appreciate it might not be £10,000. We need to know what the projected income may be. And that's, so at this minute in time, we don't have that information. And we're still on the basis that we want to protect the repairs. We want the whole basis of the decision is to generate an income. We don't want this to be a financial burden. And without the assurances that we're going to recover the £10,000 through bookings over a 3-year period, it's not something that we feel as a party would be a prudent spend for council. So that's the rationale of the proposal. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just specifically to clarify, Councillor Farrell, I mean, it's our what was envisaged is a fee plus a nominal licence fee every year. Generally, when you tender it, you get it for 18 months, 2 years, and then the licence fee will kick in after that. But we won't know exactly until we tender it. We feel that the budget that we put down is in the ballpark of other systems. And but as I fully respect members, if we wish to bring a paper back with more detail, we can do that, and we can add, and we can gather up more information in terms of booking hires, booking information, so on, before members actually make a decision. Equally, when we go to tender, nothing will be enacted until we would bring it back to members also. So comfortable whatever way members need the information, we can handle.
Folks, is there a difference in opinion on this approach, or should we go ahead?
Mayor, if the member would consider just a deferral back to Business and Culture, and we'll discuss it then. Is that okay?
Christopher, at that stage,
We're happy to withdraw a proposal on the basis that it will be deferred and discussed again at Business and Culture.
Perfect. Okay. Seconder for that, please. Thank you. Any other matters arising in Business and Culture? No, see how slow I said that. We'll move on now to the monthly Environment and Regeneration Committee held on Wednesday, the 14th of June, 2023, pages 165 to 174. Can I have a seconder and a proposer and seconder, please? Thank you. Thank you. Any matters arising? Councillor McGillney.
Very mega Chair, and it's just a brief one on ER 114/23, the Waterloo Place Parklet. We welcome the fact that there's an interagency collaboration to address the antisocial behaviour from that report. However, I would ask if it could be suggested that health services and support services are part of that conversation. They weren't listed on the report. And I think that given the vulnerabilities of some of the people that are involved in that antisocial behaviour, they could be offered help as opposed to being automatically towards the PSNI and crackdown. So if we can suggest to the City Centre Initiative, I know they had initiated the interagency group, that those support services are invited under that working group.
Sure, Chair, just for members' information, we have been engaging very closely with all the support services in relation to the particular individuals. So I will absolutely note that, but they have been involved the whole way along. So just for members' information.
Thank you, Mayor. This is in relation to ER 113/23, the Maboy update. And as other members might be aware, Sam McBride is bringing some focus to the ongoing issues at Maboy, which is still Europe's biggest illegal dump. And alarmingly, in his coverage, he says that the amount of waste now that has been identified there is increased by 40%. Which is extremely alarming and worrying, given how long it's taken to do any real remediation there. There is leaching out of the dump, and what we've been told up to now is that it's not impacting our water supply. We do know that there is highly pollutant material inside the dump. That there's leaking out, but it's not impacting our water supply. I think the worry is that the fact that there's more waste that's been found to be in there, the fact that it's taken so long for remediation to really begin, means that we have to be alert to the danger of groundwater impacting our drinking water. So what I would like to propose is that we ask NI Water to come in and give us an assessment of the danger of contamination to our drinking water. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Can I welcome the members' motion, and we fully support it, because specifically when I read through the report that came through ENR, the boy team, so 23rd of June, I went down to the frequently asked questions on regard specifically on water, and it's obvious that if I go to the beach now with a bucket and I scoop out water, I look in the bucket and I see there's no sharks there, then my presumption is, well, there's no sharks in the entire ocean. And I use that analogy, not to be flippant, Madam Mayor, but just to really simplify what my understanding and my perception of what is being shown to us. And it's not a full and accurate breakdown of firstly, what are NI water testing for? This is really important because if you're only testing for sharks, then you're going to see sharks. But specifically, there's no breakdown of precisely what is being tested. And alluded to in the member's remarks is the level of toxicity and the category of some of the waste isn't being tested for, that we understand. And it's things like benzenes, carcinogenics, poisons, and VOC. I don't know the acronym of VOC, but it's disturbing. So the breakdown, if we do get the NI water, and if it's the NI water, there's a directorate of drinking water that I have referenced, but I can't have it to hand. So apologies for that. But the specific questions when they present is, break us down exactly what are you testing for? And I want a complete graph from when they started testing, the frequency of testing, and any spikes in that testing, Because the moment when I read some of the comments are coming out with there's no risk, but yet in another contradictory paragraph, they're saying we need £12 million to protect the water source and going forward. That, there's a contradiction there which needs clarified. And it's not just to assure members here. There are many, many people out in around Eglinton, in around who are taking a keen interest in all of this, and they don't have the reassurance that their drinking water is safe. It is a statutory obligation to ensure drinking water is safe. And within this chamber, if we can press to get those answers, then I think it's a good motion coming forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
It's on this issue, but I have a couple of other issues which I'll leave to this as finished. I've been attending that Maboy stakeholder engagement for some time now, and it's a question that has been asked at those meetings. Is there any more there? Oh no, there's no more. And then Councillor Harkin has just identified, yes, there is more, and that's been identified. If they've discovered more, they don't actually know what's there. It's simple as that. And it's a damn disgrace that it has been allowed to get to this stage.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to welcome and support the motion on behalf of the DUP. The residents really need assurance. The situation is very severe, and I don't think we should ever underplay that. I know no one has, but certainly on behalf of the many, many residents that are deeply concerned, they really need assurances. So we're sort of thankful to see a bit of movement here on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On behalf of SLP, we'll support the proposal as well. I attend the meetings as well, along with Councillor Hussey as well. The big thing here is, of course, we need to know what's in there, but we need to get the stuff out. That's the most priority. There's no direction. At the minute, they have sowned 11 sowings to say where all the waste is, but now we're finding more waste. We need now a direction going forward to get this stuff out, and there doesn't. And this will be interdepartmental as well, and it doesn't seem to be happening. We go to all the meetings, we keep hearing we're moving forward, but we're not at that stage. And from people of Eglinton, Strathfoyle, Campsie, all them areas, that's a big, big issue.
Good Mayor. Sinn Féin welcomes Councillor Harkin's suggestion. Also, what Mr. Norris was saying there is we need to get it out. But to get it out, what we need is a government, a functioning one at that, and some people to get back to work. So then we can have an environmental minister and these discussions can be had, budgets can be set. Mayor, back in, I believe it was February, we had a motion what suggested that there was a delegation of councillors to visit the treatment plant at Maboy, at Carmody, what is very close to the dump. What is the treatment plant for our majority of our drinking water in this city? We haven't had a response back from NI Water. If we had, I haven't been updated. So hopefully on this one, they might respond. Can we just add up just on that? Because I think it would be helpful because we as elected representatives are especially in the fund, are contacted very regularly with the concerns of Maboy. And it would be good to get some sort of information to get back to them on that too. And if we can visit the plant, we can see for ourselves what mechanisms are in place to protect our drinking water. Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Members, just to advise members, we did write to NI Water in relation to members visiting the site, and I'm pretty sure we also had a follow-up on that, but I will check where we are. I don't recall any response coming back as such, but I will follow it up.
Keith, did you want to come in?
No, Mayor, I have an item put on the chat box there for later after this. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Other comments? No? No, and everybody's in agreement? Sorry, John, somebody? No. Alderman Hussey, I know you want to come on other issues.
Thank you, Mayor. Items on page 166, items ER 99, ER 100 and ER 101. The first two, can I sincerely congratulate and thank our council staff who have already reacted to the comments that I made about the state of Castleberg Town Centre, and indeed other settlements throughout our area in the Derga. I believe the work in Strabane Town on pavement cleaning and the work in the other settlements has been undertaken, but it's certainly most welcome. And similarly, I have been contacted by DFI with regard to their weed spraying programme, so sincere thanks for that. Similarly, I thank the council officer who contacted me with regard to replacing the sealant on the local war memorial in Castleberg. That's on hand and extremely welcome. That we didn't have to wait to a council meeting to have that impacted on. The other one, 101, was with regard to a review of disabled parking bays. That obviously involves DFI coming into the network development section. Has there been, well, I probably know the answer to this. We have to wait for this meeting before contact can be made. But I hope that that will follow through pretty quickly on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Can I just bring Alderman Kerrigan on now?
So, thank you very much, Mayor, and concur with the comments there made by Alderman Hussey in regards to that. I was touching slightly here, and it's in regards to ER 100/23 on the basis that is levelling up money, Mayor, and in regards to the issue that, as say, number of their councillors will be aware of sorry, Mayor, about the issue in regards to problems with the levelling up money and a petition locally in Castleberg in regards to Mitchell Park, and just that officers are aware of that, and maybe we can have a wee discussion there. There are individuals there who are a petition there, pay to play in regards to the money that we're getting through levelling up, and just when it is referencing the diamond and the levelling up fund in the air, just wanted to touch base with that. Thank you, Mayor.
Chair members, that particular issue in relation to Mitchell Park is being taken forward by our Health and Communities Directorate, and I'll ask them to contact Alderman Kerrigan in terms of an update on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Karen. I was two minds between touching it there and that, or in the Health and Communities playing pitches strategy. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Two issues on ER 97/23. And secondly, ER 98/23. On the first issue, has a date been set and has there been any progress on the latter? Cemetery disabled access. I would like a wee bit of latitude because I've seen cemetery and disabled access on the agenda. So it may not be directly linked with the event which it was pertaining to, but it's still cemeteries and access. So if you can allow me that, I'd be grateful, Mayor. I was made aware of an issue at Alton-na-Galvin Cemetery where those that were utilising the cemetery and were going through a burial, someone had a requirement for disabled access to a toilet, and that cemetery did not avail of any disabled access for toilets. And so that's my first concern. We're a good council, and we like to cater for everyone. Section 75. So I was a wee bit embarrassed when I was approached by this person who had a darkest part of their life when they have to bury a loved one, where their dignity, I believe, was removed and it was absent. And I think we're part of a cause, and we need to be part of the solution. So are we in breach of Section 75 by not having disabled access toilets available, whether it be permanently, which I know there's a cost implication there, but during burial times, why can we not put in those facilities temporarily? So that is my issue. So I would really like something either brought back NENR or to explain now why that has happened. Thanks, Mayor.
Through you, Chair, members, we're happy to bring a report back to a forthcoming Environment and Regeneration Committee in relation to disabled toilet facilities at our cemeteries. That's fine, no problem.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting us in. Mayor, it's an issue just with ER 10723, the skateboard park. Mayor, and having a look at it and some issues that may or may not arise, but to see when on the recommendation and it's saying taking this forward on the majority of support received from the resident engagement process, and it has been noted within the report that the response was very, very low. It was like, I think it was 11%. 5 responses for and 3 against. But my issue would be that when we say the resident engagement process, and we're basing the decision on the resident engagement process, has that engagement that the report acknowledges is very low, the response? Should we just proceed with that? And it's not that I'm against the skateboard park or anything as such, but I think that if we were putting the sense of putting all our eggs in the one basket, but we haven't possibly investigated the resident engagement process fully, and we've already acknowledged that in the report, that we could be in danger of running something further on down the road. So, Mayor, I would maybe possibly ask that we have further resident engagement process, because I think that maybe a letter going on a person's door, and particularly at election time, where some people may have thought it was election material from the SDLP and put it in the band. Just don't say it, Brian. But I'm just trying to be. I'm just trying to be funny. But on a serious note, Mayor, that rather than just proceeding with this now, I think we should extend the resident engagement process so that we have a true picture of what the residents' thoughts are on this. Because I think that the response so far has been very, very low. Engagement is a letter getting on the door and receiving 8 emails. I'm not sure that we could stand over that process. Thank you.
Just, Mayor, briefly on the back of Councillor Gallagher's comments, people that I've spoke to as well are of a similar view. Again, Sinn Féin are very supportive, and we've engaged with the groups that are trying to bring new and maybe not so popular sports into Strabane. But there are similar concerns across the board coming my way as well, that maybe some people didn't think they received a letter at the time. Now, whenever I was canvassing on election time, it was a mixed bag, but I think the main thing that people mainly thought was that they just weren't engaged with as much as they could have been. It's not necessarily that they themselves are objecting to the skate park, but they would just like some more information. I'm not sure if Councillor Gallagher would agree, but it's not that these people are objecting to the skate park. They would just like to know what is going to be in their back garden before everybody's out singing and dancing about how great it is. And I would agree with that it's great, and hopefully we can progress it, but I think we maybe need to take one step back so that we can take more steps forward of having the residents on board, just like Councillor Gallagher says, not to run into problems on down the line. So maybe if there was something that we could discuss with, some mechanism of discussing with residents, what it actually is, how it's going to look for them, particularly for the residents that maybe didn't get the opportunity to get something back, regardless of why they disposed of the letter that they may have received. I'll leave that up to the residents as to why they didn't respond. But if we could maybe come up with something that, you know, we organise or facilitate a meeting with residents about the steps forward of what it's actually going to entail. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Garrett for raising this. As rightly says, that definitely all the residents do need engaged with. A few residents have contacted me about it also, about not being notified, and they don't want this in their back garden, but it's about addressing the issues that the people have so that the council can make it more according to what they want. But as far as I'm aware, we've been at the committee, that the council is going to engage with the residents again, as far as I know, and they're going to be hand delivered to every house to make sure that everybody gets them, so that the residents will have now another opportunity to engage with council again on whether they are for or obviously against, or whatever concerns they have. Thank you.
I agree with Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Boggs, Councillor Meyer, but it's very important that the residents' views are taken on board, because I understand similar exercise, Skippo Park and Derry fell because of the residents were against it. And I've spoken to Liam Cannon, the organiser of the Skippo Park, just to encourage them to work with the residents throughout the whole process, so that any concerns can be addressed at an early stage. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, members, happy to take all of those comments on board. I think that the report did acknowledge that there was very limited engagement and feedback during the initial letter that was sent to residents, and it did also recognise that that would need to be actually very significantly ramped up in terms of moving forward if we were to proceed with design development. Certainly, I'm more than happy to arrange for the team to undertake a further engagement with residents. Certainly, I don't think we're going to be able to, at this stage, be able to tell them exactly what it's going to look like, because that's the whole point of the design development process. However, we can certainly meet with them and speak to them about any concerns they may have and take those on board, and we can bring that back to members before we actually proceed then with design development, if that would be helpful to members. Thanks.
Just very briefly, I totally understand where the officer is coming from, but the point I think has been made, not sure, it might have been Councillor Boggs made the point, the proposers or the supporters of the scheme need to be involved as well, because there's probably an issue of perception that people have of those who would be going and using the skate park. So getting them involved along with council officers to let them know exactly what would be going on site and the types of activities, etc., that would be. I suppose when we go to public consultation on anything like this, I mean, should it be a road naming, for example? Quite often it's a minority of people who reply on a change or putting an Irish name on a road, for example. But it is what it is. That's the consultation process. That's what you go through.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. Mayor, I was looking to formally propose that we defer this issue. All the work can go on behind the scenes, other stuff can go on, and then this issue could come back into the chamber and we'll be in a better place. But the proposal is to defer this particular issue.
Do you think that's necessary? If we're going to, if we've got a commitment from council officers that we're going to go away and talk to those residents again and meet with them and meet with the sporting groups, I don't know if it's necessary to defer. I think if we've got a commitment from officers that we're going to do that, I wouldn't be happy to.
Just see on the proposal is saying members endorse. That's what. So I'm asking for it to be deferred until there's more engagement, more consultation.
Through you, Chair, what I was suggesting is that obviously the proposal was to endorse this particular location to move forward in design development, but that given members' comments, we would undertake further engagement with the residents and happy to consider that we involve the skate park promoters in Strabane in that consultation process, and then following that we would bring back a further report to members to seek members' endorsement to continue with that direction of travel if members are happy with that.
That's what I would be looking to support, and Sinn Féin would be looking to support, is what Karen is suggesting rather than deferring it. So I wouldn't be supportive of the proposal, Mayor, that we do defer it. I would be supportive of that we keep going with the decision that was made in committee and work alongside what Karen is suggesting with working with residents, council officers and those within the groups that want. I don't think there is anybody arguing against the fact that this is the place for it to regenerate that area. So therefore I think we should be moving forward, but taking on board the points Karen has raised. Thanks.
Councillor Gallagher, do you want to still keep your proposal or do you want to withdraw it?
Mayor, just it's process here, right? And what process here is, all right, and what's been asked, you know, that councils was undertaken a process. This process, then the outcome of that process went on to a committee. That report and came back and says, we've had an engagement, whatever that was. The response was very, very weak. That's what the report says, 11%, whatever. Then it says, based on that findings, we're going in favour of what was the majority. Like, it's not the whole thing. The way I'm asking for it to be fair is, I believe that it's not and wasn't. It's no disrespect to anyone that was undertaken. It wasn't a true process undertaken. 5 responses versus 3 out of 90. Right? Of potential 90. But for us today to endorse a position that we know is weak is not a way to move forward. So what I'm suggesting is defer this decision. Karen will undertake processes and bring back a further report that we will be in a strong position to stand over. Sounds sensible to me.
I have 3 more speakers on this, and then I'm going to, it is very important that we get this right, but I am going to move on after this. So, Councillor Hart.
Can this process, as Councillor Boggs said, I think it's going to work in tandem with all other elements? You know, if we defer it here now, that's going to hold up the whole process further. Can these work in tandem to address, you know, the residents' concerns?
Through you, Chair, members, I think really in terms of this, what members agreed at the committee was that there were a number of possible sites that could have been considered, and that given the information that we had available to us, given the engagement that we had done on the sites selection, basically criteria at the time, that this particular site was more preferred than the other sites that were put forward, and therefore we would undertake more design development and more engagement. And I think the report did mention that given the circumstances, we would need more engagement with residents. So members, again, I'm happy to decide or to take forward whatever members decide today. But what we can do in any process to take forward any of our projects on our green infrastructure, the next stage after considering that at this stage we would prefer this to be the location, there would be further engagement taking place to basically to test that a bit more, and also to look at, you know, what exactly could this look like, etc. And members, what I had suggested is that once that happens, members, we would bring that back to members so they have a further opportunity to say, you know, is this still our preferred option, or given what has happened since the last engagement, we now believe that maybe this is not the most preferred option. So members, I don't mind either way. I'm happy to take direction from members in terms of what way you feel that we should take this forward. But certainly engagement with with residents has got to be front and centre. And again, obviously, ultimately, this will move, whatever site we progress will move to a planning application with formal public consultation anyway, but we wouldn't wait for that. We would always want to make sure that we were engaging with residents before that.
Very clear, Karen, thank you for that. Councillor Boggs and then Councillor Tierney, and then we're going to decision.
Just, I won't labour the point any further, much more, but just, I think, yes, I understand where Councillor Gallagher is coming from, that there wasn't a high percentage of respondents. Karen says there is room for further engagement in the future. I don't want to set a precedent that every time that there is low respondents, that we keep going back out again and again and again to try and get a higher level of respondents. It is sent out, people have an opportunity to respond, and in this specific case, there is going to be more engagement and a further opportunity for councillors to make a decision. So I'm not, Sinn Féin won't be happy to defer anything to do with it, and we will be supporting that, yes, further engagement with Karen and her officers, but that we keep moving onto the design stage as was agreed within committee, because there is no room for setting a precedent of, well, we need to get to this percentage or that percentage. Residents, and I am engaging them with the same level that Councillor Gallagher is. I understand their issues, but we can't set a precedent that as soon as we're not happy with a number, that we just go back to the start. Otherwise, things are never going to move forward. So Sinn Féin's position, as I've said, it would be that we would move forward. Thanks, Mayor.
Mayor, thank you. I think there may have been a slight bit of nervousness around the numbers and the wording of the recommendation, where it's been asked to endorse Beachmount Avenue as a preferred site, given the fact that that's in support of the majority of the respondents from the engagement. But if Karen's outlining that if we do further engagement and it comes back at that stage that is not the preferred, or that does not, have the majority support, then it can be really looked at that point. Is that what you're suggesting?
You, Chair, members, we obviously will have once we do further engagement and further consideration in relation to it, we will bring forward a report to members, and members will then have an opportunity to say, do we still believe this is the right thing to do? Or indeed, do we believe that we need to go back to the drawing board and look for another site, etc. So yeah, and that's quite normal in terms of the design development on our green infrastructure, and you know certainly members will absolutely have another opportunity to consider all of the information and further engagement with residents and what's come out of that.
Thank you, Karen. Mayor, just on the back of that, if you don't mind, given the information that Karen has given, and the fact that it's been outlined that it's not set in stone right now, that this is the preferred location until we have that further engagement, we would like to see this project push on. So we will not be supporting the proposal to defer from Councillor Gallagher, and we'll be supporting the original recommendation to try and get this pushed on. Thank you.
Councillor Gallagher, do we still have a proposal? Oh, sorry, Councillor Barr.
I actually seconded the proposal to go ahead with the skate park, and after that, I was contacted by quite a few residents who weren't happy with the level of engagement. You know, so I would support the proposal on the grounds that to let people see clarity. I can't see the point moving ahead with a project by seeking approval at the same time. To me, you know, I think we have to be seen to do the thing right. You know, I'm fully in support of the skate park, Mr. Van, obviously, but I think that we need to be seen to do the thing right, and I would be supporting the proposal on them grounds.
Councillor Gallagher, do we still have a proposal?
Mayor, look, no, based on what Karen said, right, just as the previous councillor says, that just the way it's written just looks like it's done and dusted. So like, I'm happy that we're given assurances here that further engagement is going to take place. There's no hard and fast decision saying this is it. The Tigers get on tomorrow or whatever that term would be. That there's going to be a further decision-making process on this at a later stage after community consultation. I'm happy with that, I think. So I withdraw the proposal.
Chair, and just members to remind members that we haven't yet got any budget to be able to develop the park. So that's another issue that we'll have to consider at a later stage.
Be talking about the budget, Karen, please. Right. No, listen, folks, any other matters arising out of ENR?
Sorry, Mayor, thanks for bringing me on. Just to go back to 9723, Karen, Alderman McCready there asked we update my request. It's just on the online booking and the opening hours. It's basically the opening hours at the moment because, especially in Eglinton, we're closed now on a Saturday, and I understand it's to do with rate process, but we close on a Saturday when everybody's sort of off, and a lot of hedge cuttings, all that sort of stuff's going on. People's upset by it, you know.
Through you, members, I think we discussed at the committee that we would have a members. There's two issues here. One is in relation to the wider opening hours across the sites that we've reviewed following on from the cuts to that particular budget. We will have a members recycling group, working group to go through that in detail with members and to consider possible options or members' views in relation to that. In relation to the actual booking system, which was really the main issue that was raised, that was obviously set following guidance from the Health and Safety Executive. I think we have been made aware very recently that the Health and Safety Executive are considering, recycling sites in general across Northern Ireland over the next number of weeks, and we'll have an opportunity to discuss that with them again, and we'll be able to bring further clarity on that particular matter in relation to booking at the two sites that we have had to bring in booking because of health and safety issues. But certainly we will organise a meeting of the recycling of members working group as soon as possible, and we can continue the conversation as we move forward.
Okay, members, so we will move on now. Now, I know everybody needs a comfort break, but we have two more committees to ratify, and then I'm going to call a 10-minute break. So the monthly Health and Communities Committee on Thursday, the 15th of June, 2023. Thank you. Thank you. Matters arising.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So it's HC 91/23 play pitch update. Again, some latitudes. The pitches in St. Colum's Park that are designated hockey pitches, a group called the Priorians Hockey Club got in touch with me with an issue, and it pertains to the level and the quality of that hockey pitch. They used to be patrons of there. They used to use it all the time. And because of their success, the Ulster Hockey deemed that pitch unplayable, and it wouldn't service their needs anymore. And two results happened. Firstly, they had to go somewhere else, and they have now had to pay for private hockey pitches, which they can't sustain. So we're kind of pricing out young people. And when you look at the makeup of the Priorians Hockey Club, it's mostly young girls looking for a career in hockey to excel. And I think by not having a fully functioning pitch at the correct level to progress, the same way we do in football, the same way we do in GAA and other mainstream sports, but just because hockey isn't deemed as mainstream, I don't believe that this council should be having a below standard pitch. It should be the same as any other sporting facility. And so I would like an update on what is going on with that pitch in particular. And is there anything within that committee that is looking to repurpose that and get it to the correct standard so we're not pricing out really good young clubs? Thanks, Mayor.
Mayor, I'm not sure if my colleague Karen is online there, but certainly we are aware that that particular facility is deteriorating, and we are looking at options in terms of external funding to upgrade that particular facility. Karen McFarland, if you are there, could you further update, please?
Okay, thank you. Mayor and members, we are aware of the condition of the pitch at Foyle Arena. I suppose it's one of the precursor surfaces to the current 3G pitches which we have been developing on other sites. I suppose there are different technical specifications for the various sports involved, different types of surface carpet in relation to that. So principally our upgraded sites at this point in time, we've been moving towards multi-sport in terms of Gaelic, rugby and soccer. Hockey is a very different surface and generally speaking, they are specific to hockey as opposed to being multi-purpose. So I'm happy to take the query and have some conversation with Priorians just in terms of their development opportunities going forward. And obviously we'll take that into consideration when we're looking at determining, I suppose, the optimum result in terms of a resurfacing of the pitch there at St. Colum's Park. Oh, sorry, it's Foyle Arena, sorry.
Thank you, Karen. I have Councillor Tierney, Harkin, Boggs, and then Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. HC 9223 is Bonfire Working Group, and I had given off at that particular meeting about the responses from the statutory partners and the withdrawal of funding to the Sparks programme. Now, I've been made aware, Mayor, that in response to the recommendations from a cross-departmental bonfire panel stroke board, a new youth cultural expression programme has been developed for the delivery in targeted areas across the north. One of these programmes is in the Bogside area of Derry and Strabane and is in line with the current assessed needs and will replace the Sparks programme. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not criticising the Bogside for getting this particular programme. I think it's great that there's something there to replace the Sparks programme. What I want to know is, why is there only one in this particular council area when we have multiple unwanted bonfires and we have multiple organisations over this last number of years from DEAs across this district which were engaging young bonfire builders in the Sparks programme? And I would also be keen to know, was council consulted by EA in the rollout of this programme? Because whilst it's good for people that live in and around Meanan Square, where that unwanted bonfire is, it's hopefully will work wonders in that particular area. There are other areas in this city and district where there are unwanted bonfires, and in my opinion, the particular one in my own area of Galia is the most contentious bonfire that we have. Attracts high levels of antisocial behaviour in the lead up to and on the night of the 15th of August. The withdrawal of the Sparks programme is going to have a major impact in that and other areas across this district. And if EA have not consulted with council as a partner on the bonfire working group, then it's an absolute shame, and in my view makes a mockery of the multi-agency council-led bonfire working group, which was established by this council as a partnership with other statutory agencies in 2016. Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me, are we going to get an answer from the director if there was a if we were consulted?
Yeah, yes, Mayor, I'm happy to say that I'm not aware of consultation, but to ensure that it's a fully rounded response, I'll check with the wider officer team, but I don't believe there was specific consultation on the development of a new programme.
Thank you, Mayor. It's HC 81/23, and look, I think we can all agree that the capsizing of the boat carrying hundreds of migrants off the coast of Greece a couple of weeks ago was a massive, massive tragedy, and that I fully endorse and support the proposal that Councillor Lillian Barr brought forward at the committee meeting, calling for the British government to treat refugees from Sudan, Palestine, Afghanistan, Iraq, the same way Ukrainians are being treated, and that they extend the different schemes to allow people to come here, so that people don't choose to make, arduous journeys across the Mediterranean, like the ones that ended in tragedy. So I think it's very important that our council sends that urgent message to the British government now. And I've been speaking to quite a few asylum seekers here, and they're very frustrated at the lack of progress in terms of interviews taking place about people being able to kind of seek residency here. I also just wanted to add to the discussion. I mean, obviously the UK government has created a very hostile environment for refugees and migrants and asylum seekers. But what happened in the Mediterranean, that is the responsibility of the European Union. I mean, it's because of the European Union's murderous policies that you end up with a tragedy of up to, could be 650 people dying, unknown numbers of children drowned, and we're never going to find out because they say that the depth of the water there makes it impossible. And I also just want to add to that it's not just the people far off in Brussels making those decisions. In 2019, there was a vote taken about increasing rescue missions in the Mediterranean Sea, and disgracefully, 4 MEPs from Fianna Gael voted against it. And I think that there's a direct connection between the lack of rescue missions in the Mediterranean Sea and what happened in that awful tragedy off the Greek coast a couple of weeks ago. These are things that are not, this doesn't need to happen. This is policies from the European Union, from the UK government, that is leading to the deaths, unnecessary deaths of huge numbers of people fleeing war, poverty and persecution. So I'm not adding anything to the motion, but I think I wanted to add to it, because it's the British government and it's all our major governments that are creating policies that are having, this is the outworking of their policies. I think it's murderous. I think it's criminal. And, people deserve to be treated better.
Mayor, just on page 180, HC 8523, it's just in relation to the age-friendly strategy that was brought up at committee. And one of the things within that was about making sure that our ageing population have access to amenities such as toilets and all the rest. And although I'm only a new councillor to this council, I'm aware of the debacle that we've had around public toilets and the rates and the cost of them and all the rest. But something that was raised with me, and I think if we're going to endorse the age-friendly strategy, was around the summer jam that was held recently in the town, and to congratulate our council officers and all those who put under the planning, because by all accounts it was a brilliant day. But one of the things that came out of it was that there is a lack of education, is how I'm going to put it, around the community toilet scheme, or the toilet scheme that we have within Sperrin and Dare specifically, and that some people think that the toilets, every toilet in every business is open for public use at any time, which clearly isn't the case. On the website, it is at the minute only council buildings within Strabane, the Alley, Riversdale, Melvin, and all the rest. So it's just to ask, and I know Karen's online, if maybe we could look at a bit more public education around what facilities are to be used, and maybe encouraging again businesses to take up the opportunity to sign on to that scheme so that there are more toilets. Obviously, the preferred option would be that we have more public toilets, but we all know the issues surrounding that. So maybe just as a suggestion, that we could go back out to the public and inform them more about the facilities that are there, and also out to businesses and ask them maybe to reconsider uptaking as part of that scheme for people to use. Garmugget.
Thank you. Just before I bring on Alderman Hussey, I actually was at the relaunch of that scheme yesterday, and I had asked them about the publicity, and they said about websites and all, and then, I just advised, all due respect, there's a large way of population out there that, you know, mightn't use this form of media. So I suggested maybe they go on the radio, the local radio shows, to try and promote it. So they did say that they would do that. So Alderman Hussey.
Totally endorse what Councillor Boggs is saying there. The issue of identification of where these locations are has been mentioned before. There's no signage. You know, in other towns you see signs to public toilets. Well, why can't you have a sign to community? I forget the community toilet scheme or what. You know, why can't we see signs to that? In fact, I found myself embarrassingly in Castleberg going to a shop that I knew was in the community toilet scheme. I had to ask where the toilet was. There wasn't even a marking on the door to say this is the toilet. You know, crazy. So, I mean, there's a responsibility on those who are in the scheme, but there's also a responsibility on council to ensure that signage exists so people know where these facilities are.
Members, I'm noting your comments and we will take that on board within the officer team, and we'll bring back in July just our proposals in terms of promotion. So we're noting your feedback. Thank you.
Sorry, I have to come back on that. This issue has been raised time and time again at the Public Conveniences Working Group. Nothing's been done about it yet. Signage.
And members, we're content to take that on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. On the same issue, I was contacted by the committee of the Grantia Club a few months ago. I spoke with the head of environment about this issue of the shared toilet scheme. They wanted a sign update, but were told there was a waiting list. Could they be rushed through now that the Strathfoyle Greenway has reopened? Because they say the number of people that are asking to use their toilet, and they're a private club, but they're willing to become part of this scheme at any time. So I think maybe if someone could get in contact with them and hurry that process along. Thanks, Mayor.
And members, just to confirm, we'll follow up on that. Alderman Guy, if you could maybe sort of drop us the details in the chat box. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor, my apologies. You moved on just a wee bit too quick, so if you don't mind, can I go back to the bonfire stuff? It is genuinely important, and I know that people sometimes get a bit of an issue with a pop-up motion, and I don't normally do it, but on this occasion, I feel that there's no other option, particularly because if we leave this too late, it's going to be July before I get an opportunity to do this, and anyone who's been dealing or working in and around bonfires knows that funding for these particular opportunities to attract young people away from that negative behaviour needs to start earlier. The sooner the better. It's already, in my view, too late, but the sooner the better. I have emailed Teresa a proposal. It is around the EA replacement, alleged replacement of the Sparks programme. It's there in front of you. I don't like the fact that there is only one of these new youth cultural expression programmes in this district whenever we have multiple DEAs, multiple communities are facing difficulties with bonfires, whether they're wanted or unwanted, in my view. And I would call on EA to fund more than one in this particular area. I would also call on EA to find a replacement fund for areas that have benefited previously from the Sparks programme, because the Sparks programme is one programme, in my view, that has proved to be beneficial within communities, beneficial to people who are backing on to areas where there's a bonfire, but most importantly, beneficial to bonfire builders and trying to get them out and away from that type of negative behaviour. So I would beg your indulgence, Mayor, on this particular occasion, given the timeframes that we're on, to accept this proposal and allow officers to engage with the EA as a matter of urgency. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to second as well, Mayor.
Gurmugget Mayor, and in terms of Councillor Tierney's proposal, I accept the fact that we're time bound in relation to it. In terms of illegal fires, and let's call them what they are, they're illegal fires. We do need to be doing more to address them. We have tried over many years to address some of the ones in our own particular backyard. And have had limited success at different years. Some of the success that we had was down to funding that we did get through from EA and the Sparks programme and different interventions from youth services and then community responses. I think that at this point in the year we are quite late, but I have not given up hope in terms of addressing some of the issues around, particularly the local one that we've been dealing with for the last, how many years, I don't want to say. But no, in terms of the motion in front of us, absolutely happy to second it and support it. I think that anything that we can do to get resources in to address these issues, then we should be doing them. And if there are replacement funding schemes, or if we can get any sort of rethink around it, I'd be only too happy to support it and see what we can do in working with the EA and other funding bodies to look at that. I think that there are many issues around the illegal fires that need to be addressed, not least some of the criminal behaviour around some of them. But I'm happy to work with this motion and work with the Bonfire Working Group in relation to it.
Are in agreement with that, Jim? Go ahead.
It's like a slight amendment, and I would like the amendment to include more than one youth programme, to include the Strabane area. And why I would like to ensure that the Strabane area is in there is because we have been arguing, and through the working group in the Bonfire, that Sparks would include the Strabane area, of which I would say many a false promise was made and weren't included. So if we were asking for a replacement like the Sparks, then it would exclude Strabane. So we need to have the Strabane area based in the motion itself. Thank you.
Mayor.
My reading that it sort of changes the motion a bit. I've no problem with adding it, but it certainly makes it a wee bit more.
I think, to be honest, and from my point of view, I suppose it was probably an oversight. I fully take on board what Councillor Gallagher saying. I think the Strabane area would have benefited from the Sparks programme as well. It's unfortunate that it didn't have it, but it was really more around what was there is gone and we want to replace it. But I fully accept Councillor Gallagher's point around looking to build what they didn't have in Strabane, and I would have no issue in seconding his amendment.
Right. Philip, can I ask you what you're checking that? It's okay?
Yeah. So I need a seconder for it if we don't run any copies. And yeah. Just as an initial amendment to the new
Right, have I a seconder? Right, you seconded, right, Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for letting me in. Just I'd like to also endorse the proposal in front of us. I know from areas on the water side, you know, the Sparks project was a valuable project that was rolled out with the EA last year, and it is disappointing that that's not been rolled out, or certainly there's no replacement for it. So we're happy to support that, and just reiterate the importance that these kind of projects have around this time of year. And whilst we have different opinions about bonfires and whatever, I think it is a valuable service that's within our communities, not only in the water side, the city side and Strabane. Thank you.
Folks, we have an amendment, so All in favour of the amendment? Yeah, that got us read, right? Okay, and now the motion itself, yep. Everybody in favour? Okay, thank you. Any other matters arising from health and communities? Alderman Hussey?
Just to go back to 91, the pitches issue and pitch maintenance. Council do a fantastic job on our grass pitches in the so-called closed season. But it can present difficulties for some of our clubs who are further up the leagues, etc., in their various areas. We're long past the day when many clubs turned out as a sort of a pub team on a Saturday morning when the league started. It was the first Saturday and they went and looked for their boots onto the stairs and headed out and played a game. In fact, clubs are now, and some will have already started beginning their pre-season preparations, and these are junior clubs, junior amateur clubs, and they're now starting their pre-season preparation for matches that will probably begin mid-August. Such is the level of commitment that has been developed within these clubs. Because of pitch maintenance, it can present problems for teams with friendly games before the season starts and indeed training, etc. I had been in touch with Ryan Dean, and he has assured me that every effort will be made to accommodate clubs. But I know that in my own area, there's at least one, maybe other clubs who didn't know that this was happening. So perhaps before next year's pitch maintenance scheme gets underway, there'd be some sort of engagement with clubs across the district council area to ensure that they're aware of what's happening, and if tweaks can be made to the work that has to be done to accommodate clubs, that be taken on board. I think there's also the issue whereby the use of pitches for the Foyle Cup, for example, comes in and impacts on the overall scheme. But if that can be looked at before this time next, well, in fact, a couple of weeks, couple of months back, next year, in order to accommodate as many of our amateur and progressive clubs as we can. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, any other matters arising? No, we'll move on then to the bi-monthly Assurance Audit and Risk Committee held on Monday, the 19th of June, 2023, pages 189 to 196. Can I have a proposer and seconder, please? No. Thank you. Matters arising? Alderman McCready, and then Councillor Harkin. Should we bit of it?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. AAR-39-23. City and growth deals, outline business cases. Have they been signed? If they have not been signed, whose name is going to sign them? Who's the person that needs to do that? Thanks, Mayor.
Through you, Mayor, we had a City and Growth Deal working group meeting this week where we updated on the progress with the OBCs. In terms of who signs them, they are approved or otherwise by the City Deal Programme Board, which comprises the leads from each of the organisations who have respective ownership of the projects. So that would comprise Council, the Western Health and Social Care Trust, the University of Ulster and Northwest Regional College. Each of those partners is responsible for its own OBCs. So effectively they come forward from each of those partners. So a council OBC is councils and respectively for each of the others. And then the programme board considers if each of the OBCs is in line with the heads of terms document and approves its submission.
Madam Mayor, supplementary to that. Thanks very much, John. I suppose is where do they go next? Where does the money get released to implement these projects? Because I've read minutes of lots of meetings, lots of working groups, even outside this council, where it was supposed to be signed by the end of this month, and that's not the case. So is there a timeline, a realistic timeline that we can be assured here that the outline business cases from those responsible persons to be signed? And secondly, where do they go next to release that money? So is there another signature or is there another approval needed somewhere else in government? Thanks.
Sorry, through you, Mayor, again. So a very detailed report was brought to GSP back in December outlining the progress with all of the OBCs. The key issue that was highlighted to members at that time was the punitive cost of construction inflation and the massive impact it had on the development of the capital projects within the scheme, and the fact that essentially all of the schemes were going to have to be reviewed to look at that. It was stated at that time that a new time frame would then be drawn up for revised OBCs. The City Deal Working Group were updated this week on progress with that. Progress with revised OBCs is very positive. The vast majority of projects are now going through the process of revising the OBCs, and a detailed report will be brought post the summer to GSP to outline on when the OBCs will be complete and submitted. But suffice to say that OBCs are going into the government system from next month with the objective of having all of the OBCs into the system by late autumn. So from next month until late autumn. I can't give you exact dates for each project, but that's now the time frame. The report that'll come in September, October will detail that. By the time the report comes in, some of the OBCs will have indeed been submitted. The process after that is the same as any capital project that's submitted to government. The parent department will then comment on the OBCs. Will come X number of questions, and that will iterate between the parent department and the author of the OBCs. That process, as we know, can take quite a period of time. The key focus for council will be the achievement of what's called financial deal. In our view, financial deal, which is a signing document between government and the City Deal partners, does not require the complete and comprehensive approval of all of the OBCs, but it does require government to be satisfied that robust OBCs are in the system. So the timing of the signing of financial deal isn't set in stone, isn't absolutely clear, but in our view does not require the finite approval of all OBCs. Otherwise, financial deal would not be signed for a very long time. So that's the process that we're now involved in. That was the update given to the City Deal Working Group earlier in the week, and more detail on that will be in the paper coming forward to GSP.
Thanks very much. And the final part of that question, if I may, Mayor, is does that need a ministerial sign-off or a permanent secretary for the financial deal? That's what I want to understand in terms of the risk assurance that we spoke about in this committee.
So we have asked the question of the Permanent Secretary of the Department of Finance, does financial deal require ministerial sign-off, or can it indeed be signed off by permanent secretaries? They are seeking legal advice. We're advised on that, and we'll be advised in due course. At this moment in time, it's not an issue because we're not at that point, but we're anticipating, obviously, getting to that point. That's why we've asked the question, but we don't have an answer.
Thank you, John. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. AAR37/23. Look, there's been a very positive response to the proposal to award or propose Freedom of the City and the District to John McCourt, the campaigner. And I've had very positive response as well from colleagues here. Procedurally, I am obviously not able to make that kind of proposal out of the minutes of a meeting, so I will be bringing this for the full meeting in July. And if anybody would like to have a conversation with me, or even if we want to organise a meeting through officers to discuss the proposal, I'd be happy with that. So the proposal will be in for July, just for clarification on that item. Thank you.
Yeah, members, just to advise that I do understand that the working group that's dealing with these matters is scheduled to meet on the 17th of July now, and I believe that previously members had indicated that these proposals wouldn't be moved forward until such time as that working group had completed its work. So it's just to remind members that it's my understanding that that's members' position in relation to the matter, but obviously members will want to liaise in relation to that.
Councillor McKay.
No, just on that matter, Chair, I mean, I don't know John McCourt, but I do know there was an email forwarded to councillors that was in quarantine, and you know yourself, you have to then release it yourself. I don't know anything about it, but I know that the person that sent the email would be opposed to that motion. But as I say, I'm just letting councillors know there is an email regarding that item. Councillors may want to look at it.
Madam Mayor, I'm looking to speak on a separate issue. Do you want me to hold back until? Or...
I just want to confirm, I think I'd only went to 10 or 12 councillors. I didn't go to everybody, but I think some were held back. Just to confirm what Councillor McKee was saying. So yeah, I'd only went to 10 or 12, but there is an email opposing. So.
I think we'll just take it forward with the working group and see what comes from there. Alderman McCready. Sorry.
No, it's just a matter of clarity, because I know Alderman McCready's issue is different. Do you see, in terms of the agreement of the working group around nearly a moratorium until they conclude their work, is that our corporate position? Can that be changed? Or I'm suppose looking for a wee bit of clarity around that. Is it now our position that we can't bring forward any further freedom of the city motions?
So obviously a working group can't set council policy. That requires a decision of council. That was the steer that the working group gave. It's a matter for the working group then when it meets in July. It may wish to consider whether it wants that to come forward as a policy position of the council in relation to the matter, but that sits with the working group at the present time.
So at this point, it is just a recommendation rather than a policy?
It was just a steer.
It's just an indication from the working group that is what they felt was the correct position, but that does require an endorsement if it was to become a policy position.
Just for a bit of more clarity around that, I think that was the same position of the asset naming working group too, that there would be no proposals considered until that policy was formulated. Okay, so we're going to move on now to Alderman McCready.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. AAR 45/23, and it's under the Health and Safety Wellbeing Report. On audit and assurance, it doesn't meet that often, but when it does, it's really important to go into the detail, to give assurance, to look at risk and to audit. And I was slightly disappointed that there wasn't representation from the directorates and head of those directors for me to actually ask questions and interrogate the report. And that came about when I looked at some of the input within the report was below standard. And so just as a general feel, I value each of our officers from the top to the bottom. But when it comes to the AAR committee, which doesn't meet that often, I expect them to be present and to answer my questions on assurance, audit and risk. So if we can just take that in good, as best as you can take it, and ensure that that committee does its job, and I need them present for me to do that. Thanks, Mayor.
That'll be noted. Any other matters arising? No.
Do you want to try and get through the few confidential?
Right, I'll put it to the floor. Look, I know it's what time now? It's 4:45. There is a few confidential items that we could work through, and then we're just anti-notices of motion, or does people really need a comfort break? Right, comfort break for 10 minutes, and then we will resume.
Oh, no.
Was she replenished? Um,
Then we have to wait for Paul to turn us off.
Right, folks, I'm going to propose that we move on to confidential now. Paul, can you just,
Second.
can I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Tierney.